Well, welcome along to this particular session. The spotlight is on the sports sector and opportunities in Qatar. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined now by Majed Al-Amari from the Qatar Financial Centre. Majed, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Just give us a little bit of background, if you would, about the Qatar Financial Centre and what your role is there.
First of all, thank you very much, Andrew, for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person after this pandemic is over. As you mentioned, my name is Majed Al-Amari. I'm in the business development team under the business acquisition department. I've been a business development analyst for over 6 years now, or coming up to 6 years. Basically, what we do is we're the arm that connects the international markets, and spreads the word out to the international investors that want to establish their presence in Qatar through the Qatar Financial Centre. When it comes to the Qatar Financial Centre, just a brief idea of what the Qatar Financial Centre was and how it's evolving every year. It started off in 2005, directing its focus onto the financial sector alone, bringing in the banks, insurance companies, reinsurance companies. By 2014, there was an expansion in the strategy that allowed to accommodate for non-financial services. So we started targeting professional businesses and whatnot that support the financial services. After that, on an annual basis, we started developing, still reaching a very, very wide range of professional services and non-for-profit entities and investment clubs are some of the solutions that we're actually accommodating now in the Qatar Financial Centre. So as I mentioned, every year there's a new product that's available for investors. We try to accommodate most and facilitate most for these investors that have a certain idea in their mind. Seeing that we're a government body, we don't actually target, we don't actually research through the market and what the market needs are. However, if an investor comes to the market, to the Qatar Financial Centre, and we understand their need, we try to facilitate for that legal structure.
We'll come on and talk later, Majed, about the 2022 World Cup, of course, in Qatar, the FIFA World Cup of football. But that's perhaps been a driving force towards a greater emphasis around sport. And is that where the Qatar Financial Centre has been focusing in terms of sporting opportunities for investment in overseas companies?
Definitely. Obviously, we were all amazed, and we're very excited for the Qatar 2022 World Cup being host in the Middle East for the first time, in Qatar for the first time as well. It's been a very hectic 10 years since announcing that we are going to accommodate in 2010 till actually getting to 2020 and seeing the development itself. From a personal note, as a local Qatari, you see it, and it's an amazing sight to see stadiums being up and running, up and standing, and being activated in less than 4 or 5 years, and seeing the infrastructure being built. That obviously affected all the stakeholders as in Qatar, not only the Qatar Financial Centre. Seeing that we all are targeted towards this vision, we were able to accommodate for several stakeholders and their subcontractors as well. Like, for example, we've got a lot of good relations now with the stakeholder 2022 Qatar, the QSCDL, the Supreme Committee for Legacy and Sports. They're obviously are in control of the FIFA World Cup, and they're the authority dealing with that. We connected with them. We were able to accommodate for a lot of their investors, a lot of their personnel that are going to be on the ground in FIFA 2022. We've also been able to create a very good ecosystem for not only the FIFA-related activities, but every sport activity that will accommodate through these next 2 years, or in that presence. We were able to create an amazing relationship with the Qatar Development Bank, Aspire Zone for sports, and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, where we created where there was an initiative for the Sports Accelerator. that will bring in startups or innovative companies that have an idea that want to provide for the not only the World Cup but for the sports in general. And then we're able to put them through that process of getting incubated and then licensed under the Qatar Financial Centre. So a lot of stakeholders are involved. Definitely, Qatar Financial Centre has seen this this boom, and a lot of entities have been coming through the Qatar Financial Centre. Well, we've got one of them that was in the incubation centre and was passed through to the licensing was Phonics. That's it's actually an English-based company. So there is a lot of JVs happening, and thankfully a lot of stakeholders, not only investments or investors, foreign investors, but also stakeholders are benefiting from the QFC being an onshore and international friendly platform.
This is very much what things like the FIFA World Cup, like the Olympic Games, is about, isn't it? It's about being sort of the arrow that drives through and starts off these ecosystems, as you referred to. The World Cup will come and go, but the legacy will be Qatar and its sporting development from then. It must be a very exciting time for you and everybody at the Qatar Financial Centre to be involved in this kind of activity.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we're getting a lot of attraction, not only through the sports, but through other, add-alongs, or let's say field attracted to sports also. So with the sports, you get the media, you get the legal PIs, you get the manufacturers for these stadiums, you get the suppliers, you get the one of the amazing things that I found out recently in sports is crowd management. So you get these systems that are based on crowd management and how safely to move out these crowds in these specific areas and move them from one place to another. So all these technologies, all these international companies have, and at the end of the day, when you're talking about FIFA, when it comes to the World Cup, everyone's going to follow FIFA. It's not really a basis of getting to the country before FIFA coming. No, it's where's FIFA going, and then we'll go to that country. So with that being said, we Qatar have been trying to not only in the Qatar Financial Centre but in Qatar in general. We're trying to actually, as you mentioned, the legacy to start from the 2022 and open the doors to Qatar. A lot of people are talking about Qatar being, they're going to host the 2022 and they're going to meet what they've always wanted to do. No, for us, we've got a 2030 vision that is still ahead, and this is only opening doors to the next fields that are going to be accommodated.
That's a very impressive vision. What is it that the Qatari Financial Centre, do you think, can offer to companies? A lot of the audience watching this today, Majed, will be keen perhaps to sort of think about where they could maybe get involved. Now, I know the FIFA World Cup is very much protected by their own rights and corporate governance. But in terms of what the Qatar Financial Centre can offer, what sort of things do you make available to overseas investors, and what sort of things are you looking for from those investors yourself?
At the end of the day, as Qatar Financial Centre being a government body, for what we want to see is the healthy and increase in the competitiveness in the local market. At the end of the day, there's an economical value added for all these companies that are coming in, and the know-how that they're bringing into the local market. When it comes to the investors, what the Qatar Financial Centre provides and has been providing since establishment is the idea of having 100% foreign ownership. In the early stages of the Middle East in general, and Qatar specifically, that was a very, very rare, let's say, rare commodity to have, is to have 100% of your own entity. So thankfully, under the rules and regulations and the law that was adopted by Qatar Financial Centre, which is the British common law, what happened was we were able to provide 100% foreign ownership under British common law as a legal framework. And what made it even more interesting for investors was the fact that we're providing 10% on locally sourced income, which was a very competitive rate when it comes to the tax rate in Qatar and in the region. It doesn't put you between, it puts you away from being that tax haven where no one wants to be and being a very extensive or expensive tax field that no one would want to come into. That's when it comes to the idea of the Qatar Financial Centre. What we also provide is obviously, linking, we're able, once they're established, and giving them the facilities to set up under the Qatar Financial Centre. We have a dedicated clients affairs teams that obviously during this pandemic had to be on hold for this year, but we also provide events linking stakeholders and other investors locally and internationally in events throughout the year, so that there can be some networking to be provided to these investors.
What sort of companies have you seen getting involved? You mentioned a couple previously, I know, but sort of, is there a particular sector that companies are looking at? Is it around the stadium development? Is it around the infrastructure of the roads and the transport system? Can you break it down into different areas, or is it not that specific where companies are looking to invest?
When it comes to these sectors, obviously, us in the Qatar Financial Centre, after seeing what the government wanted and what the FIFA 2022 is willing to establish, we've already created, every entity had created their own strategy based on this knowledge from the FIFA 2022 QS-CDL. But that being said, what we've done now is we've actually, as you mentioned, yes, we've dedicated our let's say promotion to the QFC to dedicated sectors. Obviously, sports being one of the major ones. Digital is one of the sectors that we've also been penetrating recently. Also, the media section is always something that is always accommodated, and we're always seeking to find as well. And finally, we're trying to localize most of these subcontractors and most of these external contracts that are going abroad to contractors and getting executed in Qatar. So when it comes to for example, the digital aspect or the digital sector, we've been noticing a lot of IT companies, a lot of IT solutions, cybersecurity solutions that are coming aboard. And when you mentioned the stadium, it's not only about, as I mentioned, it's not only about the actual hardware of what they're bringing to the stadium itself or the railways itself. It's actually the intranet that's being introduced through the digital fields that is also being accommodated as well. So you get a lot of tenders being sought for these type of activities. And when it's an international tender or when it's a local tender, and these entities hear of this tender, they start to bid for it, and once it's awarded, you get to see these entities coming through. And the easiest and fastest way for them to set up is through the Qatar Financial Centre as a means of executing that project or tender.
And obviously, you're keen for those companies. They're keen to work with you, and they're keen to get set up in Qatar. But what sort of incentives can you offer them? I mean, presumably, if you see the right kind of companies for you coming along, you would want to offer them the best possible help to become established in Qatar.
So when it comes to the incentives, every year there's a new, after the board get together, we always look for incentives, and us being the business development team, we always urge internally to get these incentives done. For example, for the last year, we had an incentive for first 400 companies to set up, get waived from their fees for the first year, being the licensing fee and the application fee of the Qatar Financial Centre, which is a total of $10,000 for the first year. However, However, there are more and more incentives that are coming through our stakeholders as well, that allow them to come and set up under the Qatar Financial Centre. For example, with the Sports Accelerator, the incentive there is that we waive off, or anyone that's coming through the Qatar Sports Accelerator, is they're waived off for the fees for incorporation, and also they're given a free workspace. So there are several initiatives that come. It's basically it's a case by case, and also the sector that's demanding it. For example, we've also have a digital incubation center in Qatar that we work closely with, that also provides the same incentives for these digital entities that are, be it startups or small and medium enterprises. So incentives are there. It's, as I mentioned, it's an annual thing. Every what is a need can become an incentive, and also there's a lot of means to favor certain activities or to favor certain sectors when it comes to these incentives.
Do you feel, Majed, that has a lot of the work been done already, or are there still now, as we move into 2021, are we looking at there still being opportunities for overseas investors, overseas companies to get involved with? As you say, we shouldn't just think about 2022 and the Qatar World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, but you have this policy towards 2030. But are there still opportunities there for people to get on and to get their businesses settled in Qatar ahead of that FIFA World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when you're thinking about the numbers that have already been spent for the 2022 World Cup, these numbers weren't budgeted to meet that date alone. As I mentioned earlier, and you've clearly stated that there is a lot of work after that happening. So Qatar sports sector alone has a huge ambience of untapped potential. So it's always, and we've always seen it in the previous FIFA versions, that FIFA comes, but then a lot of what comes with FIFA stays. So you get there's a lot of like, for example, the winding down of the stadiums and moving them to other locations in the world, as was mentioned in the 2010 the letter tender for that bid. Also, there's a lot of sectors that are also being involved as well. So we're concentrating severely on sports being the way in, but then after sports, there's the medical, there's the educational, there's the digital. So, and at the end of the day, the 2030 vision is to accommodate for the private sector to become an independent profit gaining source, and not depend fully on the hydrocarbons that Qatar is very rich with. So that being said, these, like, people see it from 2022 to 2030, 8 years, but no, believe me, the potential is growing and growing. Like, as we've focused the past 10 years in sports, the government is focusing alongside sports in a lot of different sectors. For example, in the medical sector, there's a lot of research happening. There's a lot of R&D. We have stakeholders that are setting up on offshore platforms, like, for example, the Qatar Science and Technology Park, with a lot of R&D entities setting up there. There's a lot of potential when it comes to, again, when mentioning the digital aspect. Cybersecurity is one of the biggest now activities that we've noticed. Me personally, in the Qatar Financial Centre, we've seen the IT spike up around, I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 21 or 23% of all the activities accommodated on the Qatar Financial Centre. So there is a lot of this happening. And when you're dealing with stakeholders in the hydrocarbons, like, for example, Qatar Gas and Qatar Petroleum, they have a huge amount of subcontractors and a huge amount of contracts that are on an annual basis. So a lot of people come and say, okay, is this the end? No. We are only a gateway into the Qatar market. However, the Qatar market has a lot of potential, and not only the Qatar market. You're in a region that's already going to be booming and is always booming. So we've got contracts already with Turkey, for example. We've got there's a boom in the Indian market, and a lot of entities are setting up in Qatar to accommodate for that Indian market. We've got some of the for example, Bank of China set up under Qatar Financial Centre to oversee its operations in Africa. So it's safe to say that Qatar has been able to accommodate for that, not only being the potential internally, however, the regional potential as well, and creating that hub sense for these investors to come and set up under the Qatar Financial Centre and in Qatar to have a reach for these potential markets around the region.
I was going to ask you about that, because it is a two-way thing, isn't it? It's not just the investment into Qatar, but it's how Qatar is portrayed on the world stage, and thinking of big name partnerships with, like, Barcelona Football Club, but other ways in which the name of Qatar is being spread worldwide. Just personally, Majed, how can you sort of quantify the changes that you've seen since that winning bid in 2010 to where you are now? I mean, it must have been a massive transformation for people working like yourself in the development of Qatar.
I'll be honest with you, Andrea. When I heard the bid, I was a student in Southampton University. You know, so I was it was an amazing idea. Like it was hard enough telling people where Qatar is, but thankfully in 2000 I was in Ireland when I was young. In 2002, the first advertisement for Qatar Airways came out. So it was a bit easier to let people know where Qatar is. And then thankfully by 2010, you know, the 2006 Asian Games that happened in Qatar, which was an amazing, amazing atmosphere and amazing turnover of that event. That was the initial, spark that gave, a lot of people, oh, let's see what's happening in that place. What's Qatar? Where is Qatar? So by that in 2006, and then in 2010, obviously when FIFA said they were going to come over, it made me personally want to achieve, get my degree faster, finish to witness it. And when I started in the Qatar Financial Centre and witnessing the not only the infrastructure just booming, it felt like it's something that is so like it's easy to do. However, it's easy to deliver. Sorry, but it's going to take a lot to do. And in the past, I can tell you, in the past 6 years alone, I've seen places that were literally just sand plots in Qatar and now are hosted to, which are called sports cities now. You know, there's the stadium, and not only the stadium, but there's a mall beside the stadium and a hotel adjacent to that mall, and a park filling that area altogether. So not only is the stadium filling that place, but the ecosystem, it's bringing it all together, and the investors that are benefiting from that stadium being there are not only retailers or let's say digital companies when it comes to the cybersecurity, but you get the sports in general, the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of the Qatar Tourism Authority is benefiting a lot, because these are becoming regions and becoming destinations for tourism attractions. Not only is it for the stadiums, but the actual facility itself accommodates for far more activities than just coming and watching a game. And with the rail, I mean, to be honest, one of the best things I've seen is the rail up and running. To see that first train just taking that first distance and taking that destination and passing through these stations, it was something so, I mean, I'm gonna sound biased, but I apologize, but it is amazing to see it, and it's such a wonderful feeling to see that a lot of people that thought that Qatar was just a normal country, very small in capacity or in size. Well, it's gonna show the world that. It's already showing the world, and hopefully it's going to show the world that, well, this is what you came to see, and this is what we deliver. And as the QS mentioned it, they're going to deliver amazing, and we are delivering amazing. So it's something very nice to see.
You're absolutely entitled to be biased, although I do wonder if Ireland qualify for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, if we'll see you in there somewhere in a green jersey of the Irish team. Just talking briefly about the pandemic and the effect that that's had on the world in terms of the obviously in terms of the health of the world, but also in terms of the health of the financial markets and of corporate businesses. Have you sensed any sort of downturn along the way, because have any of the backers, for example, indicated to you that they're no longer in a position to continue their investment, continue their support?
Obviously, when it comes to the pandemic, Qatar has been relatively impacted by the COVID-19. However, the country's key institutions were tasked with being guardians of our natural resilience. And we've adopted a very effective strategy to not only minimize this risk, but also to utilize the opportunities that came with it. There are obviously investors that that during the pandemic were felt, okay, what's the situation now? How are we dealing with it? What's the risk that we're going to be taking, and is there any means of actually going through and coming to Qatar after this situation? Obviously, everyone had their own impact. But we can say that, for example, the government instated, like one of the main things that the government did was instate a 23 billion US dollar stimulus package to boost the private sector. So this extended guarantees to local banks worth 5 billion Qatari riyals, and directed government funds to increase investments on the stock exchange by 10 billion Qatari riyals. Also, I mean, looking into what was tried to be accomplished through this pandemic, or trying to be, let's say, to savor during this pandemic, was the World Bank's country outlook report in 2020 October projected that despite the adverse impact of the pandemic, Qatar's real GDP growth will turn positive again in 2021. So yes, we were impacted. A lot of stakeholders were, let's say, we had to reshuffle our cards, as everyone in the world did. But thankfully, our deck is very stable. So our reshuffling was able to be, more sustainable than, and more, let's say, and more accommodating for the rest of the investors. We did not get to feel that difference in investors, and thankfully, our investors weren't able to feel that as well.
It's great that you've got that support, and it's obviously it's a fantastic time for you, and the world is looking on and wishing you well with 2022 and indeed beyond, as you say. Just finally, Majed, in the few moments we have left available to us, what would you say then to people representing businesses, consultancies, watching in on us here and now? What would you say to them about getting in touch with how can they indeed get in touch with the Qatar Financial Centre and seek your help and guidance?
Thankfully, we have a dedicated team with the business development team, where we've got a call center that's operative and easy accessible throughout the world. We have emails that are getting in on a daily basis. I would urge everyone that is interested in the local market to not only contact the Qatar Financial Centre, but read about Qatar and look at the potential. Like, there is a lot of people that come and see, okay, World Cup is going to be here in 2 years. Oh, the tenders are already been given. There's no more. No, I can safely tell you that there's a lot of tenders still coming. As I mentioned, the 2030 vision. Get in touch with us in the business development team through our contact details. I'm pretty sure they're going to be shared in the background of this webinar. And also we have the call center that's accessible. Once you reach them, you'll be connected to one of us in the business development team, one or of my other 11 colleagues. So there's a dedicated team here and we are more than happy to answer any questions that come towards us. We get to know more about the businesses. We get to find solutions for these businesses. So don't feel like if you're not a professional and service business provider, that doesn't mean that you can't come in. No, we have a lot of corporate solutions. We have a lot of high net worth individual solutions. We also have a lot of stakeholders that can secure, when it comes to incubation centers, that can secure for startups and small and medium enterprises their places in this local market. So get onto your emails or phones or however means you like to contact, or via video calls in this certain pandemic. It's becoming a very common means of communication now. So, and we'll be more than happy to see if you can help in assisting you facilitate yourself under the Qatar Financial Centre.
Majed, it's been fantastic and fascinating indeed finding out more about your work there at the Qatar Financial Centre, and we're very grateful to you for outlining those opportunities. I'm sure many of the delegates to this webinar will take up that opportunity. Thank you very much indeed. All the best for 2022 and beyond.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. It was a pleasure for you having me, and thank you again for this opportunity. And hopefully we get to see you here in 2022. So I'll be keeping my eye out for you. So
thanks, Majed. Thank you very much.